For the last year, my channel has been dedicated to documenting the experiences I had working as a photographer for Norwegian cruise lines. Over that time, the most common question I get is, how do I get started? So today, I'm answering that question. This video covers everything you need to know to get hired on any cruise line in any position. Plus, I'll share my top tips to make your transition as smooth as possible, no matter where in the world you live. So get comfortable and take notes. This is Deep Dive. Have you ever wanted to travel the world for free? Actually, not just for free, but get paid to do it? Imagine living at sea, meeting people from all over the world and building lifelong memories. Or maybe you come from a place with few job opportunities, lower wages, or unsafe working conditions. Maybe you want to experience something new or just provide for your family. If any of that sounds familiar, this video is for you. Working on a cruise ship comes with a host of amazing perks. Free food and accommodations, in-demand job training, and solid pay, depending on your country's cost of living. But let's be real, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, though those are around. Cruise work is intense, no matter the department. So, is it worth it? Well, let's break it down. Now, if you're ready to jump in, here's the TLDR of the whole video. First, decide what jobs match your skills. Then, find a cruise line hiring for those positions. Next, apply online and go through the interviews. After that, complete all the necessary paperwork. Then pack your bags. You're boarding for the next 6 months. Alternatively, if you live in a country with a cruise or seafarers agency, that can be a faster and easier route. Agencies handle applications, paperwork, and even training. If that's an option for you, use it. If that's all you needed, congratulations, you're ready to go. But this is Deep Dive, so I'm not stopping there. The rest of this video will go over every detail I wish I knew before my first contract. So, let's dive in. Now let's set expectations. No matter which cruise line you work for, there are some constants to expect. First things to get over with, English. I speak it, it's a dumb language, but 97% of all cruise ship passengers will speak it as well, so if you want to work, so will you. Hopefully that's not a problem if you watch my channel, but still, speaking English confidently and fluently is not only critical, but just simply required if you want to work on any cruise line in the world. The other constants, you will work long hours, like 10 to 12 hour shifts daily. You will work for months away from home. A contract can last from 4 to 9 months, but on average it's 6 months, which was the case for me. You will have limited free time. You'll be visiting beautiful places, but usually only for a few hours at a time, and for most people when you're not working, you're sleeping. And finally, all cruise lines in the world operate on contract-based employment. You work for a set period of time, then take unpaid leave before working on your next contract. For example, as a photographer, I worked a 6-2 contract, meaning I worked 6 months on and 2 months off. Spa employees, however, have a 3-9 contract. Yes, 9 months working on and 3 months an unpaid break. Speaking of pay, there's a lot of factors to consider. Your pay depends on your position, nationality, contract type, your port of origin. Entry-level wages can range anywhere from $600 to $5,000, and I've heard instances of even less than $600 a month. However, for most first-time crew, you can expect to be earning about $1,000 USD. And I'll be using USD for the duration of this video for my standard unit of currency because that's what I and everyone else got paid on my ship. If you want more details about this, check out last week's video where I break down all of the financial aspects about how much money I made and spent when I was working on the cruise ship. For most cruise line employees, food and accommodations are free, and this applies for anybody hired under the flag or specific brand. However, many ship staff are actually contractors, working and being paid by separate companies. Anyone on board, as an example, working in retail, spa, or entertainment, typically speaking, is not an employee of the cruise line directly. If this is the case, your stay comes out of your paycheck, which is typically balanced by a higher overall salary. Let's clarify another factor. During your contract, you will see some amazing locations. In my first month, I visited Costa Rica, Colombia, Panama, the Bahamas. It was amazing to see all these exotic locations, and I did visit these locations. I have videos on all of them. You do get the opportunity to explore the ports just like the passengers do, but there's a catch. See, the passengers get all day, spending 8 hours easily exploring, going on guided tours, excursions, paying for activities. However, as a crew member, you are working every morning and evening, factoring in the time to change, eat, shower, both before and after your shift. It's uncommon to get more than 3 hours at a time to visit port before your next shift. Now, you could say that the diversity of locations makes up for it, and it's true. I've seen many places and I have the videos to prove it. Costa Rica and Mexico were awesome, but then I spent 4 months in Bermuda at the same port. No! Your ship will go to the same places over and over and over again. It really starts to lose the wow factor the 15th time you visited the same location. Riveting! Honestly, the biggest hurdle is just your energy. After weeks of 10-hour shifts every single day, exhaustion sets in. Many crew members, myself included, spend most of their free time sleeping rather than sightseeing. And you can see this if you follow the cruise vlog playlist. I slowly get more exhausted and depressed as my contract stretches on. Well, if it's so hard, it has to be worth it, right? Well, that's up to the individual to decide. The cruise industry has millions of employees, many lifelong cruisers. Some people really enjoy the lifestyle and the quality of life on board. Ultimately, you have to decide for yourself. A major component of that is obviously money. Now, my last video was a dedicated deep dive into all the money stuff. So if you want a detailed breakdown of that, check the video out. Links in the description and here. For right now, the long and short of it is, after 6 months with a contract wage of $1,000 a month, I earned $11,082.27, making my commission nearly half of my overall wage. My contract was about 200 days long, and I worked in the range of 1,695 hours during that time. When you do the math, that works out to realistically working an average of about 8 hours a day. However, I still had many 10 and 12-hour days on my record. You know, math just evens everything out. The reason the cruise pays per month and not per hour is, under this context, I was only earning $6 an hour. For people without commissions, like the housekeeping staff, it would be closer to $4 an hour or less. Remember, it's 60 hours a week, every week without a break for more than 6 months. Take all that into consideration if you're considering the role. What are your living expenses right now? Can you drop everything and just leave for 6 months? And are you willing to work 8 hours or more every single day, no days off, for only $4 an hour? But you can keep every single dollar of it. You don't have any expenses. It's something to think about. It's a trap! Now let's talk about who you'll be working for. The cruise world is dominated by a few major players. We can call them the Big Four, but really it's a stacked podium and it looks like this. In number 1, Carnival Corporation. Easily the largest cruise line conglomerate in the world, with more than 90 ships in operation across Carnival, Princess, Holland America, Seabourn, Cunard, ADA, Costa. They own a lot, and they hire a lot of crew. They also move the most people. In second place, unsurprisingly, Royal Caribbean, king of the megaship. With more than 60 ships and the largest ships in the world, Royal Caribbean also owns Celebrity, Silversea, and TUI cruises. Next, we have MSC, the largest family-owned cruise line in the world. They have 22 ships with a focus on the European market mainly, and they serve approximately 1.4 million passengers annually. They also hire more than 30,000 staff under the one flag. For that one brand, they are the third largest in the world. Now, NCL, my line in comparison, owns only 19 ships currently, but like Royal Caribbean and Carnival Corporation, it's owned under Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings, which operates Oceania and Regent of the Seven Seas as well. As a corporation, NCLH is still larger than MSC, serving nearly 3 million people every year and hosting about 35,000 staff across all 3 brands. But with only 19 ships, NCL is actually at risk of being overtaken by Royal Caribbean and Carnival's secondary brands. Princess Cruises, as an example, on its own has 18 ships and nearly 30,000 staff. And Celebrity isn't far behind, with 16 ships under their flag and an annual passenger count approaching 2 million. If these 2 secondary brands joined, they would be larger than both MSC and NCL across every demographic, which just shows you how big the gap is between brands. Now, it's important to remember that these are all just objective numbers. They're estimations based on the most recent reports I can find. I can't tell you everything about the culture, quality of life, or people on board. Each of these main lines and their children will have specialties, and each ship itself will have differences in characteristic crew demeanor and personality. I can't get into all of those details here. I just want you to see your options. In my opinion, aiming for a job in one of the big 4 is your best bet for your first time. But there are other options. Disney has its own magical cruising experience with 8 ships and a very family-friendly demographic. Viking is a line of luxury river cruises, and as well, the newest competitor to the market, Virgin Voyages, operating only 4 ships, with the highest standards of quality customer service. There are a splattering of smaller, more specialty lines that may be hiring, but I wouldn't recommend seeking them out specifically. Now, I know that's a lot to take in, especially considering each is going to have their own hiring practices and requirements, some being more strict than others. Just to get your foot in the door, I would recommend sticking with the big 4, Carnival Cruises, Royal Caribbean, MSC, and Norwegian Cruise Line. As the largest name brands, they're likely to have the most turnover and the highest number of open positions. Now, it's really important when you're looking for a job to do your own research into which brands you think are best going to match your personality or skill set. However, your personality and skill set might matter less than where you're physically located in the world. Depending on where in the world you're living geographically will also make a significant difference in your hiring journey. This can impact not only which lines you work for, but even which positions are available to you. The easiest way to think about it is just to cut up the world. If we take a look at a map of the world, we can sort our population centers into 3 primary groups. The first section is what I think of as our major demographic centers. These are countries that have a target market for most cruise staffing employment, primarily Southeast Asia, notably the Philippines, but also India and Eastern Europe. Each of these regions are heavily scouted by all cruise industries and will have numerous agencies that you can work with for employment. The next area is what I'll call the minor zones. These are South America, Central America, and Southern Africa. Not only are these locations the most popular for cruising destinations, notably the Caribbean, they are also the source of the remaining cruise ship employment. If you live in a country located in either of these 2 zones, you should be able to contact an agency and work through them in your hiring process. If you live anywhere else, well, you'll have to do things the hard way. Like me. Now, I can't cover every detail for every option, but I intend the rest of this video to serve as a kind of roadmap, guiding you with key checkpoints that you can gauge how close you are to actually stepping foot on board. The simplest route is one I've alluded to, is working directly with a recruitment agency. These agencies act as intermediaries between you and potential employers, partnering with a cruise line to find and prepare candidates for onboard positions. They also help applicants meet the necessary qualifications and standard required by employers. A good agency will streamline the hiring process, assist with documentation, and may even help with training and certifications. all of which can save you months of time and effort. And the best part is these agencies are paid by the cruise lines to find them staff, so you usually pay little to nothing to work with them. Now, I didn't go through an agency, but I'd highly recommend searching online to see if there are any in your country or city. Alternatively, there are some global agencies that you can check out. CTI is a group worldwide service for general shipping recruitment. If you live in the Philippines, I know that Singa Ship is a major recruiter. Otherwise, Safe Cruise is another reputable source I've heard of. Now, some cruise lines also establish their own hiring bases in specific countries, offering direct training programs. For example, CSSI handles hiring for Carnival Corporation in India and the Asia Pacific region. Hopscotch Travel in South Africa offers a kind of photographer's boot camp that trains applicants for specific on-board positions with NCL, and many of my peers went through a similar program. I'm also aware that Royal Caribbean has offices directly in the Philippines to hire into the population centers themselves. There are many other region-specific opportunities like this, so be sure to check out what's available in your area. It's also important to remember that many cruise ship staff don't work for the cruise lines at all. Instead, they're employed by third-party companies to operate on board. I'm telling you this because if you're interested in a position and the cruise line isn't hiring, they're likely going through another company for that role. This practice is the most common in these categories. If you're interested in retail, like selling shirts, souvenirs, or jewelry, look into Dufry or other duty-free retailers. These are positions with really good commission rates. Especially if you're a woman interested in the spa and wellness area, I believe Steiner trains most cruise ship spa staff. Everything from massage therapists to acupuncturists. It's really tough work, but from what I hear, the money is incredible. Though, from my ship, it was a 9-month contract for everyone in the spa. If you're interested in art or being an auctioneer, Park West is the go-to company for all art galleries on board. Most ship has one. There is incredible earning potential, but it is extremely commission-based to the degree that if you don't make a sale, you really don't get paid. So, high risk, high reward. If you have the talent for it, pretty much all ship entertainment is brought in on commission. It's almost always out of house. Most cruise lines will have Broadway-style shows, Cirque du Soleil performances, or general performances of live music throughout the ship. I don't have any first-hand experience here, but again, if you have the talent, it's certainly worth looking into. Finally, of course, there are photographers. Most of the major cruise lines, NCL, Carnival, Royal Caribbean, MSC, even Disney, all have in-house photography teams. But outside of that, most cruise lines hire out external studios. I believe Tempest Photography is one of the big ones. If you're located in the UK, this would be a great option as a contractor. Speaking of, if you live in the UK, USA, Canada, most of Europe or Central Asia, and none of the options above that I have mentioned so far seem viable, here is exactly what I did to get hired on a cruise ship in 3 easy steps. Step 1, preparation. So you've decided you want to work on a really big boat for a really long time. Great, but what do you do now? Start searching online for job openings using key terms like cruise ship jobs or for specific roles like photographer, cook, bartender, whatever. Websites like All Cruise Jobs, Cruise Ship Jobs, and Indeed are great starting points for job availability. After that, start checking on specific company websites like NCL, Royal Caribbean, and Carnival. They all frequently update the job postings on their sites and are great places to start. Now, don't apply just yet. I recommend doing some market research first because it might lead you to opportunities you hadn't considered. For example, I originally planned to work as a bartender on the cruise line before I find out they hire photographers. So explore a few different job options before locking in your position. You might find something incredible like I did. Your next big step is ensuring all of your travel documents are in order. This was a mistake I made. You need to have a valid and recently updated travel passport, depending on your country of origin, possibly other documents as well. Why is this so important? Well, It might seem obvious, and it is, but when I started, I didn't have my passport valid and ready to go. This is important because in my very first interview, when the interviewer eventually asked me, do I have a valid passport in my hand, and I hesitated to say yes, she canceled the call immediately. There was no second chances or questions. I did not hold up the passport. I lost the job. Have all your documents ready in advance before you apply to anything. Lesson learned, right? Let's talk about working visas. Don't stress about that specifically just yet. The cruise lines will usually provide everything you need to work aboard their boats, including any American working visas. If you're not eligible for that for whatever reason, they'll typically assign you to a ship that doesn't operate in whatever country conflict you have. Once you can travel legally, make sure you have a recently updated professional CV or resume with your most recent working experience. Cruise lines aren't really looking for skills, they want a track record of reliability and loyalty. Skills aren't important because they sort of train you to do everything to their standard. Sometimes certain positions will call for a certain number of years of experience in a role, but often providing competence is enough for most positions. As an example, I have no professional photography experience outside of the cruise ship, but I'm really good with a camera. So I put together a super professional portfolio and submitted that with each application. Again, my job doesn't need me to be a photographer. They trained me to do everything on board. And in past videos, I've talked about how most of the staff I work with weren't photographers. They were camera technicians. They just did this specific job really well. That's what everything on a cruise line is going to be like. But if you want to work in hospitality or housekeeping, having hospitality or housekeeping prior experience will be beneficial. Now, once you have your passport and CV and anything else you might need, you're ready for step 2, application. Now that you have all your documents in hand, you can start applying! I recommend casting a wide net. Apply for as many openings in as many companies as possible. Keep your options opened and stay alert for new opportunities. This stage can be labor intensive, so I would dedicate at least a week to submitting applications. Once an application is accepted, you will quickly enter into the interview process. Now, these interviews are usually multi-stage, so expect written, online, or even in person. The goal is really to assess your character, professionalism, appearance, and importantly, your English fluency. If you pass the interviews, you officially begin the hiring process. And then comes step 3, examination. This was easily the most time-consuming part for me because I didn't take it seriously. Before you can board, you need to complete a mountain of paperwork. The most important part being a medical examination, a full health screening that is required by maritime law. The cruise line needs to know that you're healthy and fit with no underlying medical issues. This sucked for me because I have underlying medical issues. The exam covers everything. Hearing tests, chest x-rays, blood work, vaccinations, and more. So many vaccinations! You will need to complete a huge checklist of medical tests and have everything signed off by a doctor. If you're healthy and don't have Crohn's disease like me, this shouldn't be too difficult. Especially if you live in a port city or are working with an agency. Many places will have one-step clinics that get everything done in a single day. This is the best option because these people actually know what the Seafarer's medical examination and certificate is. For me, living in landlocked Calgary, nobody knew what it was. So when I went to the doctor, she's like, oh, you don't need any of these things and you need all of them. I had to go through each step individually and it took months. And you can see this process in the first 3 videos I ever posted on my channel. Actually, don't watch them, they're terrible. Anyway, rant over, lessons learned. Take the medical exam seriously and tell your doctor that every ridiculous part on the list is most certainly mandatory because when you submit it and it's not done, they'll make you redo the whole thing. Now, some additional requirements to be aware of is the STCW certificate. This is a safety and emergency training that all crew members are required. Norwegian Cruise Line provides this training for me once I was on board, but some cruise lines may require for you to have it beforehand or provide some sort of online training. That'll be case by case. Another factor is a criminal background check. The cruise lines, to my knowledge, won't have anybody hired with a criminal record, and they will require you to submit a background check. If you're working with an agency, they usually handle this for you. With me, I had to go to the police myself. It's kind of awkward requesting your own background check. Now, if you can get through all of these major hurdles, you should be on your way. Pack your bags and get ready for the next stage of your life. Now, if you want to know what kinds of things to pack or want more information about what cruise life is like, be sure to check out next week's video where I go over everything I wish I knew before working on a cruise ship. For now, this has been your ultimate guide to getting hired on a cruise ship. If you're serious about making this dream a reality and you want to take the next steps, start researching positions, prepare your resume, and apply today. Now, if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below and I will answer all that I can. With all that said, thank you everybody so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like, share it with a friend if you found this information valuable, and if you enjoy the content that I'm making, consider subscribing to the channel for more videos like this every week. I hope you're finding success in all your own dreams. That's all for now. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.